Capital Views is sponsored by Northrim Bank, Alaska Oil and Gas Association, ConocoPhillips, and Linden.
Hi, I'm Tim Bradner with Alaska Legislative Digest, and welcome to Capitol Views. And thank you today, Heidi Drygas, the Executive Director of the Alaska State Employees Association. Thanks for joining us, Heidi.
Thanks, Tim. Happy to be here.
Heidi, maybe you can just describe, well, a little bit about your background. You were in Governor Bill Walker's cabinet, labor commissioner, and maybe what else you've done. And then tell us about ASCA, what it is, how many members, what's important to you.
Sure. Well, I was born and raised in Fairbanks, and I currently live in Juneau, Alaska. I started my career as an attorney in private practice before I served as general counsel for the Alaska Laborers Union for 10 years. I went on and I served as Commissioner of Labor and Workforce Development under Governor Bill Walker for 4 years. After that, I entered private practice. I mainly represented building trades unions until I was hired to serve as ASCA's executive director back in 2023. So I've been in this position now at ASCA for 2 years now. And the ASCA is the Alaska State Employees Association, AFSCME Local 52. We represent more than 8,000 state and municipal employees across 3 bargaining units. We represent them through collective bargaining and advocacy relating to wages, benefits, and their working conditions. Our largest bargaining unit is the State of Alaska General Government Unit. But we also represent the Fairbanks North Starborough Managers Bargaining Unit, and we represent the General Government Unit in the City and Borough of Sitka.
Interesting. And so, Heidi, what sort of issues are front and center this year for you?
You know, I think the largest issue we are facing right now is a crisis in recruitment and retention. And this isn't new this year to the state of Alaska or to the legislature. This is something that has been bubbling for quite some time. We also are experiencing a crisis in payroll. We are having a difficult time as a state processing payroll on time. A lot of our members are getting late paychecks, no paychecks, significant numbers of pay problems that are happening. We have some folks with pay problems that haven't been addressed in more than 2 years. We're also experiencing a problem processing retirement benefits, and that is significantly affecting many of our retirees who some of them haven't received their retirement benefits in 8 weeks or more. So there's a number of issues, and it all seems to come back to this issue of staffing and recruiting new state employees to come to work at the state of Alaska, but also retaining them once they're there.
So, Heidi, is this mainly a problem in the Department of Administration? Are they the ones who run the payrolls?
They are, and you know, I think it's a multifaceted issue. There is a crisis in staffing at the Division of Payroll. There's a lot of these jobs are entry-level jobs, and so they're difficult to fill. There's a lot of turnover, and it sort of becomes this compounding problem where you have newer employees that are taking on a lot of responsibility, and as you know, things compound, things become more difficult. It gets harder to retain those employees because their stress level is so high. So we have a churn in payroll. We have some issues with IT and our systems of processing payroll. I'm not an expert in that, but I know that's something the state of Alaska is working actively to try to address. But it's sort of a cataclysm of all these things happening together that's really creating these problems. Another thing that's adding an additional layer of complication is that while we're experiencing recruitment and retention issues across departments. Part of the way that the state of Alaska has attempted to address the issue is through multiple hundreds of letters of agreement, which are minor deviations from our collective bargaining agreement that we negotiate with the state to try to address the issue in some sort of way. And those can come in any number of forms. They can be a recruitment incentive to try to entice people to different jobs. They can be a paycheck bonus if you don't have any absences within a certain period of time. That's the way the state has chosen to try to address this issue, to try to keep the employees that it has and attract more employees. But it also creates an additional layer of complication for payroll technicians, like I said, many of whom are in entry-level positions that are trying to keep up with the confusing and complicated way that the state has chosen to address this issue.
So Heidi, these letters of agreement, this is something new, is it? Are these just sort of ad hoc done out to just, there's an employee that they want to retain, so they offer him him or her a little bonus, all done rather sort of just sort of knee-jerk kind of, is there any kind of unified strategy for doing this?
I can't speak for the administration on its strategy. It is not uncommon to have letters of agreement. They are ad hoc in nature. It's to address a specific set of circumstances, a set of facts. We have one instance, just one example of a letter of agreement. She works in the bush, and I think employees get an additional $700 per day when they work on their regular days off because they don't have enough employees to cover, those days off. When people have regular days off, they have to work those days. So they're enticing them to work those regular days off with a little bit of extra money. But the problem is because of that letter of agreement, in this instance, the state failed to pay for 4 different days that she worked last summer. And we had to fight tooth and nail to get her the $2,800 that she was owed. So that's just one example of a letter of agreement and why it adds some of this complication.
So Heidi, this is an amazing thing to hear because at this day and age with automated computer technology, these kind of things happen. How do people deal with this? How do they make their mortgage payments? How do they buy groceries?
It's the hardest part about this job right now. We have one single mother. She's a single mother of 6. She wasn't paid on time. Her pay issue is over a year old, and she lives paycheck to paycheck. We have another member in Fairbanks. She's a single mom. She has her mortgage and her family bills on auto pay. She lives paycheck to paycheck, as many state employees do. And her paycheck would normally be deposited into her bank account, but the bank contacted her and said it's not been deposited, and she didn't have enough in her accounts to cover the mortgage and auto pay bills. In that situation, she did work with her bank to try to see if she could do something to forestall her creditors. So there's this sort of ad hoc basis. People are scrambling to try to figure out ways to handle the situation. I know that one employee who works in one of our airports didn't have enough to cover their mortgage because they live paycheck to paycheck, and the state failed to deposit the paycheck on time. That person's supervisor stepped in, loaned the individual the money to cover their mortgage for the month. We can't operate this way. The state of Alaska cannot operate this way. And to me, it's not rocket science what's at play. We haven't paid our employees enough. Wages in the state of Alaska have not kept up with inflation. We know that. We have the data. The state of Alaska has that data. And we no longer have an attractive retirement benefit. Our defined contribution retirement benefit no longer attracts people to state government the way that a defined benefit, a pension, does. And we can't attract those employees. And then when we get them, we can't can't keep them. We can't retain them. So this compounding problem, we have the ability to solve this problem.
Well, lots of challenges, Heidi, and I'm sure we're going to be hearing a lot about it in the next few months. So thank you for joining us.